So when I watched the first episode of the 1% Club from Fox, I was feeling really confident, right? I have 2 master's degrees, I have a PhD, I was feeling good. And when I tell you, it humbled me. And if I have to be humbled, so do you. Class is in session. These questions are meant to be logic-based, not fact-based, and like test your reasoning skills. That sounds easier somehow, right? Jennifer has a date with Ben. Which pair of shoes would she be most comfortable in? Which ones? Which ones? Nope, not those. I bet you thought it was those, but it wasn't those, it's these. Do you know why? It's the only one that has both a left and a right shoe. Do you see what I mean? And this one feels like a math problem and therefore gave me anxious diarrhea. If Cooper's boat has a ladder hanging off its side that's 12 feet long with the bottom 3 feet submerged in water, how much of the ladder will be underwater if the tide rises 4 feet? Answer is 3 feet, because if the boat rises with the tide, so does the ladder. And even though they explain that to me, I still... Maybe you can answer the questions that only 1% of people can answer. I did find myself to be jarringly average. But you can check it out for yourself on Tuesdays on Fox, 8/7 Central, and the next day on Hulu. Make sure you watch it and then let me know what you guys ended up scoring. Like, let me know. I told my students it was time to go to the library, so one of my students bent over and said, "Ride me, Daddy," and his best friend jumped on his back. So he gave him a ride all the way to the library. Going, yeah, the whole way there. Observing a class this week, and the teacher said, "Man, I lost my train of thought," and without missing a beat, the student said, "Damn, son, sounds like you better get a new train." My students figured out they could connect their iPhones to the Apple TV if they did it before I connected my computer. And so then one day, I did not connect in time. And there were noises and visuals coming from the TV. I had a group of students that were playing cards during class, and so I confiscated them and put them in my desk. And then I came around again, and they were playing Cards Against Humanity. Significantly larger stack of cards. So I confiscated those and put them in my desk. And then the third time I came around, they were playing rock, paper, scissors. Checkmate. Every single time that I said the word climax while I was trying to instruct my students on plot structure, they would simultaneously and unanimously go, "She." I overheard one of my students talking to another one about the length and girth of another student also in this class, and I said, "Dear God, stop, please." And they said, "You know what, miss, we're sorry. We know you're just trying to live, laugh, love." I had my students doing some work, so I was like walking around and checking on them, and there was one kid that I told to put his phone away like 10 times. And as I walked by, I saw he had his phone out again, and I took a deep breath. And his friend next to him smacked him upside the head and said, "Miss is gonna turn you into a hashtag if you don't start doing your work." Which I did not say that. But as a get to know you activity, I let my students kind of look around and investigate the teacher and then give me takeaways about what they learned about me. And the way they described my classroom was as a, quote, "wet dream for middle-aged white women everywhere." Rude. The thing in our box, all that was in there was a rock. The amount of teachers who have DM'd me pictures of the rocks that their administrators or districts gave them for Teacher Appreciation Week. It was too many. I mean, one is too many. I did this because I was like, that's funny. A funny little, silly, goofy little pun. Nope. That's what they got. I do wonder, though, what did you get for Teacher Appreciation Week? From your district, from your admin, all of that. And this is not to throw shade at admin specifically, because I know that a lot of admin are coming out of their own pockets for some of the things they're doing, and some of them have very large teams. So this is not shade at admin who's really trying their best, because I do feel like we should shout out the admin that is doing their best to love on their teachers, but also don't give them rocks. Don't do that.
This is by far the appetizer I've made the most.
Because I have people ask me all the time if I get competitive with my sister about social media, because I started before her and she's a copycat. She came in after me. And so recently I was telling them yeah, my sister does her own thing over there, hosting your home. She talks about, you know, ways that are really budget friendly to like host and all of that. And it's so great. And they're like, yeah, that's really cool. Do you guys ever get like competitive? Why would I ever compete with her? Why? You see, because I am naturally very competitive. And because of that, I don't compete in things that I'm not going to win. I started before her. And that's what her videos look like. Why would I put myself in competition with somebody who is so clearly a level above me? Like, that's crazy work. I'm not being falsely modest. If you guys go look at her page, I'm just saying the truth. Just saying the truth. So, you know, we're not in competition. Because why would we be? What did everybody do this summer? A student raised his hand and said, I pleasured myself all summer. A couple of theater kids got caught playing hide the theatrical sausage behind the stage. And I just have a question as to why is it always the theater kids? They just can't stop. In the midst of the industrialization unit, a student said he was on strike, and so he will not be doing any work. My God, what if they unionize? A student lit something up in class. It was sage. And when asked why, they said, because this place is crazy. It's not what burning sage fixes, but... All right. A 7th grader got so very stuck in the orchestra closet that the fire department had to be called to extract him. It's only the 2nd week of school. One student said, Miss, he's touching my weenus, and I did not give consent. And the other kid kind of smiles and goes, I like his weenus. When the students were asked why they're not doing their work, you know, why aren't you doing what you're asked? The student said, it's called not giving a Okay. On the very first day of class, asked, you know, any questions? And a student said, why do we exist and then die? A student made a really great sculpture in ceramics class and named it Chlamydia. 2 football players were about to go in for a hug, and one said, you can hug me, but don't lick my neck again. During a speech screening, a student called a feather a bird leaf and a crib a baby cage. Trying to get class started and get everyone's attention up at the front of the class, and a sophomore girl goes, excuse me, can't you see that we're trying to have a conversation here? I'm a woman of the Lord. Hey, to the people in my old district offices, I hear that my name has been in your mouth. And my show is this weekend, just down the road in San Diego. So if you want to come through, I actually don't know if you guys have been saying nice things or you're like hate consuming my content, but I do know that people are out there listening to the podcast and watching my stuff. I just don't know if it's like hate watching or trying to make sure you don't have to sue me or what, but I guess if you hate me, don't come to the show. But if you like me, then you're welcome. But if you hate me, don't come, because I can't handle that.